Yo, welcome back to another video. It's your boy Corey, man. I know I've read some stuff about Watch Dogs promising a lot of stuff and it never came to life. But that's like every game. I think that was new back then, but nowadays it's just like, yeah, you just look at the trailer, you know what's not gonna be in there. They literally had the Hulk up here in Infinity War running well the rest of the Avengers, and then in the actual film it was like Iron Hulk, the Hulk Buster. I ain't gonna lie, I like playing. I used to like playing this game, Watch Dogs. Yeah, man. I had played like a mission where like somebody was stalking. I think like his sister, or maybe it was like an old ex or a cousin, and we tracked them down. We took them out. I think she was mad at us for taking them out. She was like, "You ain't never gonna change. Look at you. I tried to depend on you." It was like, "Yo, he was stalking you. What are you talking about? How you never gonna change? I'm trying to protect you." It was just like funny stuff, man. She was crazy. I like Watch Dogs too, but Watch Dogs 1 just felt different. Anyways, let's get right into it. I'm talking too much.
Watch Dogs 1 was called a scam. The E3 demo promised one thing, but the final game delivered something very different, leaving behind years of hate, disappointment, and brutal reviews. But now, a decade later, has the game actually changed? And was it judged too harshly? I replayed it with a completely open mind, and what I found gave me a whole new perspective. Initially, it's fair to say that Watch Dogs 1 is another one of those Ubisoft games that actually looks impressive, even 10 years after its release. Of course, on the 360, it still looks like it's running on your nan's pacemaker, but for PC and current gen consoles, it holds up surprisingly well. And yes, it might not look as good as the original E3 presentation that got all of us hyped, but I think it still looks pretty damn good for its age. But what makes Watch Dogs stand out compared to the standard GTA clone is the whole hacking aspect, which was hyped beyond belief back in 2014. And first, you need to ignore how it makes zero sense that a bloke with a smartphone can hack trains, bridges, and drain pipes. But once you get past that, the hacking is still quite an interesting element. And yes, it can get tedious hacking countless cameras, but there's still something cool about whipping out your phone and discovering the secrets of NPCs as you walk down the streets. A lot of the time, you will be waiting around a lot for NPCs to approach something you can actually hack, which really isn't ideal. But once you twat a few, it does become quite entertaining watching the chaos unfold, as there is various ways to kill enemies. And honestly, it's a refreshing change of pace from the standard takedown or just pulling out a gun, like in 90% of other games. And creating a city-wide blackout is still one of my favourite hacks, no matter how many times I do it. And it still makes little sense to me why hacking traffic lights was removed from later games like Legion. And there's no doubt you'll have fun hacking and messing around with enemies, but it does require a level of patience. However, I do hate how unforgiving the detection window is. Enemies spot you far too easily, making it so easy to balls up stealth sections. And once you do, literally every enemy will come after you. And you know how in most games, if you hide for a while, enemies would normally stop hunting. Well, in Watch Dogs, they don't give up and constantly know where you are, like you severely shat your pants, leaving a trail of utter stench. And once things do go tits up, the gunplay isn't the best. Enemies do feel pretty weightless and hit the floor like a piece of cardboard. But it's not mind's eye level bad. The cover and shooting mechanics are responsive, and they work as they should, with plenty of weapons to choose from, and to the game's credit, this clearly isn't how it wants you to play. But the option is there, and it works, but just don't expect GTA 4 level physics or Call of Duty gun mechanics. However, police chases are way more unique compared to games like GTA. This time you can hack the environment to wipe out the cops during a chase, which is actually quite a cool feature. but I do wish you had a better view of the destruction you cause, as the camera angle you get doesn't really feel as satisfying as it could be. Nonetheless, hacking bridges and traffic blockers during chases makes them way more engaging compared to other open world games. And don't think you're the only one who stands up and busts out moves to this utter banger. But we all know the one thing that's almost always a letdown in Ubisoft games. The
I used to get
driving.
on just to do them tattoo missions.
And in Watch Dogs, it's pretty rough. For some reason, I remember it being a lot worse than it actually is. Maybe
I don't
modern
know.
games have just somehow
I
got
just like
worse.
listening to
But
people talk
cars
about
do feel like weightless,
how bad the
glorified
game was.
go-karts.
Stuff like that. Is
The
it
ragdoll
therapeutic? I don't
physics
know.
are questionable, and it's clear that driving isn't the game's strong suit. Motorbikes are by far the best thing to drive, as they actually suit the weightless, arcadey style driving far better. And one thing that does seriously piss me off, you know how in most games you can get a car delivered to you, which is normally walking distance away, well in Watch Dogs, the bloke delivering the cars is a right piss taker, and he thinks it's a good idea to park your car about 3 marathons away. It's a small thing that becomes very annoying after a while, and sometimes I just resort to using the train, which is a pretty cool detail that most modern games don't even bother to include these days. But as you're free roaming, you will notice one really unique feature that I feel has been completely forgotten about since. And by the way, if you do want to experience the Watch Dogs series for yourself, do not pay stupid prices like a knobhead. I use instant gaming to grab my game keys, and it's
Nah, don't do that. I got GTA 4 off online, and I never got it. I had to buy it on my own through the Rockstar app, like a normal person. Oh, is this where the?
like Spider-Man, and I think it's unique how this game heavily focuses on the whole vigilante aspect, complete with its own dedicated reputation meter, and the other Watch Dogs games completely left this idea out, and this feature has never returned. But is it even fun? Watching 2 dodgy strangers talk shit down some alley followed by a robbery is about as common as seeing rain falling from the sky in England, if you've ever been to London, but I like how it makes the city feel more immersive. However, I do hate how the cops always come after you despite saving someone, which does make these missions feel kind of pointless. Yeah, cheers game, seems pretty worth doing to be fair, but I still like this feature
Yeah,
as it actually
the police got my
embraces
name.
the idea of being a vigilante.
One
But
shot,
beyond these
white
random
snitch.
events, Chicago is packed with other activities too. There are 15 gang hideouts to clear out, which either rely on your stealth or combat skills, as you take down lots of enemies until you get to the boss. But these can feel a bit copy and paste after you've done a few. Then you have the fixer contracts, which are driving focused missions, and these can be a decent distraction from the other stuff. But since they lean heavily on the game's weakest element, the driving, it is held back quite a bit. Criminal convoys are another major activity where you ambush a motorcade to take down a specific target, and these can be genuinely fun as you can use hacks and brute force to create absolute chaos on the road. And we also can't forget about digital trips, which are utterly bizarre mini games that feel very out of place, but they are surprisingly fun. And one mode I feel is massively underrated, and maybe you can relate, is where a real player invades your game and tries to hack you whilst you hunt them down. And yes, it's pretty basic and there isn't much to it, but I don't know why, but I just enjoy trying to hide and blend amongst NPCs while someone tries to find you. A glorified hide and seek. Maybe I'm just even more of a sad prick than I first thought, but I love how intense this mode gets as the search area shrinks. I think Matey Boy's due a Specsavers appointment from the looks of it. Oh, Christ. But I think what really surprises me about Watch Dogs is the world itself. Ubisoft are often slated for not making vibrant, alive open worlds, which I do agree with most of the time. But with Watch Dogs, I actually disagree. It's surprising how alive the streets of Chicago feel. The NPCs you find roaming around actually act like humans instead of just endlessly walking around on set paths with untreated masturbation addiction. And unlike in Legion, you can actually go into gun stores, clothing shops, bars, and the odd coffee shop. So there are a good amount of interiors with no loading screens. And there's even these fun little mini games like cups and balls and getting pissed as a fart, which are pretty unique additions and help with world building. Yes, it's not quite as immersive as Watch Dogs 2, but this world definitely doesn't feel like a lifeless ghost town, which I feel is super important and it gets overlooked. But then we get to Aiden and his controversial story, which some people love and others think is dogshit. And it is funny to me how so many people slated Aiden for being boring, stale, and a pound shop wearing bellend at launch, and now so many people love him all of a sudden. But I still have mixed feelings. Yes, he's my favourite protagonist of the series, but Legion didn't even have one, and I mainly played as a hunched as shit old bint, so then you're just left with Aiden or Marcus. Let's put it this way, he's not a legendary character I'd put on my wall next to a box of tissues, like other Ubisoft characters. His monotone, Batman-like voice is kind of off-putting to begin with.
Someone paid this asshole to harass Nikki. Who would pay for something like that?
And his performance does come across as a bit stiff, but despite his flaws, he's interesting enough for you to care. As for the story itself, it's a standard revenge plot you've seen many times before, but if you give it time, it will hook you in enough to make you want to see how things play out. And I think that's because it doesn't try and tell some overly complex, messy story, and instead it keeps things simple by focusing on Aiden's loss and his promise to protect his family. Some of the characters like Geordie and this notorious nonce Lucky Quinn really do stand out, and I wish they had more screen time, because the rest of the characters are kind of forgettable. The missions can get a tad repetitive after a while, as you find yourself entering restricted places or chasing people down most of the time. But I think the core gameplay is enjoyable enough to stop this from becoming too painful. But my god, these minigames suck ass. I like them to begin with, but it gets proper silly after a while, as the game's minigame Rodon grows bigger and bigger with time, and the minigames ramp up with more intense time segments, and just an endless amount of them. They just aren't spaced out enough, and you'll begin to hate them, along with how unforgiving the stealth can be, like mentioned earlier. Honestly though, the story and missions really aren't as bad as some people say, and with a length of 12 to 15 hours, it's a tight, enjoyable experience. But just before delivering my honest verdict on this game, there is one thing we have to explore. Do mods really transform Watch Dogs into a whole new game you have to play? After a playthrough without mods, I did some research on which ones really were the most transformative, and I have to say, they actually did surprise me. It's not all good, as some mods made the experience worse by overcomplicating the hacking, but for the most part, some mods really did elevate the gameplay by introducing cut content and new features into the game, from deleted missions, new hacks, quality of life improvements, and a lot more. You can even get similar visuals to what we saw at E3. To be honest, to explore this properly, it really does deserve its own video. So if that's something you want to see, just give this one a like. But in short, despite the PC port not being the best, playing this on PC is the best way to play Watch Dogs. The number of mods available for this game will blow you away, and by installing the right mods, it might really surprise you how much of a difference it truly makes. But this video isn't judging a game with a ton of mods installed, so with mods aside, is Watch Dogs 1 worth your time 10 years later, and has it really changed for the better? If you're anything like me, it's real hard to find a game you actually want to play these days, and Watch Dogs does tick a lot of boxes, but it's so easy to be put off by the horrible reviews at launch. I didn't run into a single bug or performance issue during my playthrough, and honestly, the decade since its release has given players the space to really appreciate what Watch Dogs 1 brought to the table, and just how different it feels from the usual GTA clones. It's no masterpiece, but it does does have a uniqueness and charm that you
But it
might
was a good
find
game.
really refreshing, especially if you're burned out on games like GTA while waiting for 6. And I can't help but wonder, if we hadn't been misled back then, would Watch Dogs have been appreciated much earlier? Either way, it's a game I still genuinely enjoy to this day. So for that reason,
I feel like
if
it
you're
would have been
unsure
like
what to
Blindside
play next, I think you should definitely give
if
it a go. Don't let its
it went
age
the
put
same
you
way.
off, as it honestly doesn't feel 10 years old, and there is no doubt that this game is in a much better place regardless of whether you play it on console or PC. But don't pay silly money for it. I'll leave a link down below to where I bought it from, way cheaper, and if you have the
Bro, keep plugging that, man. We get it. You got websites you go to. Nobody cares. Nobody. But yeah, we about to get out of here. Appreciate like for joining in. I'm gonna try to do one more video. 'Cause why not? We got time. I might make it 2, maybe 3. Yeah, let's see.